Welcome to Cine Explain Hub. Today's movie is The Lunchbox, rated 7.8 on IMDb. A heartfelt story of letters, missed chances, and unspoken emotions. Every moment will tug at your heart. Now, let's begin. At the beginning of the movie, we see the hustle and bustle of Mumbai city, where everyone is rushing for their work. Among them, we see Mumbai's dabawalas, who deliver lunchboxes every day. A chain of dabawalas is shown, demonstrating how they pick up tiffins from homes and deliver them to customers. This is the work they do every single day. In the next scene, we see Ila, who is a housewife. Ila quickly gets her daughter ready for school because the auto driver is waiting outside. After that, her daughter leaves for school. Then Ila starts cooking for her husband. She often talks to an auntie who lives in the flat above her, and that auntie gives her recipes. After preparing all the food, Ila packs the lunchbox. Just then, the dabawala comes and takes the lunchbox from Ila to deliver it to her husband's office. Next, we see the dabawala delivering the lunchboxes to a government office. There, the office peon distributes all the lunchboxes and places Ila's lunchbox on Saajan Fernandez's desk. Fernandez has been working in this job for 35 years, and he is soon going to retire. Today, his boss comes to introduce him to Sheikh, who will take over Fernandez's position after his retirement. The boss tells Saajan to train Sheikh. We see that Sheikh praises Saajan a lot. He is a talkative kind of person and is very enthusiastic about the training. He asks, "Sir, when will we start the training?" Saajan then tells him that it's lunchtime, so they will begin the training after lunch. He asks Sheikh to come at 4:45. After that, Saajan starts having his lunch. Today, when Saajan sees such a delicious lunch, he is a bit surprised, but he finishes it completely. After lunch, the dabawala delivers the lunchbox back home. Ila rushes to check the lunchbox to see whether her husband has finished it or not. Rajiv's lunchbox comes back empty, which makes Ila and Deshpande auntie happy. In the evening at 4:45, Saajan secretly sneaks out of the office so that he doesn't have to give training to Sheikh. He struggles through Mumbai's heavy traffic and finally reaches home. Meanwhile, Ila and Deshpande auntie are listening to old Bollywood songs, and Ila gets fully dressed up for Rajiv. Her husband Rajiv comes home from the office. Ila asks him how the lunch was, but he doesn't really react. He just says, "The potato curry was very tasty," and then starts talking to someone on his mobile phone. Ila begins to wonder because she hadn't packed potato curry that day. So how did Rajiv eat it? And how did the lunchbox come back empty? She keeps thinking about this a lot. On the other side, we see Saajan going to the hotel that provides the lunchbox service. He tells them that from next month, he won't be needing the lunchbox anymore because he is retiring. He also says that he will let them know the exact date when to stop sending it. Then he asks, "Who prepared today's lunchbox for me? Please send me the same kind of lunchbox every day, just like today." The hotel staff look at him in surprise. Here we realize that the lunchbox Saajan received was actually Ila's, but he believes it was prepared by the hotel. When Saajan reaches home, he sees some children standing outside. Their ball has gone into Saajan's balcony, so they request him to return their ball. But Saajan doesn't even like children around him and chases them away. In the next scene, we see Ila. She realizes that her lunchbox must have been exchanged. She tells the auntie that her lunchbox didn't reach Rajiv, and someone else must have eaten it. The auntie says that dabawalas never do such things, and both of them start thinking about it. Saajan is standing in his balcony, smoking a cigarette, and looking towards the house in front. There, he sees the girl who had come to ask for her ball, sitting and having dinner with her family. But when the girl notices Saajan watching, she closes the window. Seeing this, Saajan feels sad, because deep inside, he also wishes to have a family like that. But in reality, he has no one. He is completely alone. The next day again, Sheikh comes to talk to Saajan for training and says, "I came at 4:45, but you had already left." But Saajan lies and says, "I was here, you came late. Today we will start the training after lunch." And then he goes to the hotel to eat. When he opens his lunchbox, he finds a letter inside, which was written by Ila. Saajan, very surprised, reads the letter. In it, Ila thanks him for eating the food and says, "This lunchbox I had sent for my husband. I thought he had eaten it, and at night I thought he would say something to me about it. Then, after thinking for some hours, I felt that the way to the heart goes through the stomach. And today I have sent you my husband's favorite dish, paneer curry." We see in the past that Ila had sent this letter on Auntie's suggestion. Ila is a little nervous because she feels that if today the lunchbox goes to Rajiv, then Rajiv will understand that the lunchbox got exchanged, and he will also get this letter. But Auntie insists and says that will actually be good. If this lunchbox reaches Rajiv, then even he will realize his mistake. Then, we see in the present that Saajan writes a reply to Ila and sends it. After lunch, Sheikh meets him again and says, "Sir, I saw you in the canteen. There was a very nice aroma coming from your lunchbox. Your wife cooks really well. There's magic in her hands." But Saajan says, "My wife is no longer in this world." Hearing this, Sheikh just keeps looking at him. As soon as the lunchbox returns home, Ila starts reading Saajan's letter. In it, it is written that this time the vegetable had too much salt. Then Ila tells this to Auntie. Auntie gets angry and says, "You sent him a thank you and he is complaining. Tomorrow put extra chili in his food." The next day, when Saajan checks the lunchbox to eat, he does not find any letter in it. Then he quietly eats the food and again sends a letter for Ila. At home, Ila reads Saajan's letter. Saajan has written that today there was too much chili in the food. But after eating, I went to a street stall outside and ate 2 bananas. For lunch, many people eat only bananas because they are cheap and also tasty. Reading this, Ila smiles because Saajan had quietly eaten the spicy food. That night, she keeps thinking a lot while looking at the fan. And in the morning, after cooking, she again sends a letter along with the lunchbox, in which she tells about her life. Now Saajan reads the letter. Ila has written, "Last night my husband came home very late and didn't say anything. In the morning also, he silently left for office. My daughter also went to school, and I, as usual, started cooking together with Deshpanda Auntie. Deshpanda Auntie lives in the flat above ours. Her husband has been in a coma for 15 years. He spends the whole day just staring at the fan, and at night he goes to sleep. One day the electricity went off, the fan slowed down, and Uncle's breathing almost stopped. Just then, the electricity came back. Since then, Auntie feels that Uncle's life is tied to the fan. She had a generator installed at home, and Uncle once again keeps looking only at the fan. This has been going on for 15 years, as if there is nothing else in life." Then in the last line, Ila has written, "Maybe there really is nothing. Then what is the reason to live?" Now, Saajan also sends a reply saying that, "Your husband seems like a busy man. Nowadays, everyone is busy with their work. Years ago, there used to be space to sit on the train, but now even that is difficult. Even if Mr. Deshpande comes out of the coma, seeing such situations, he will go back into the coma." Then Saajan also tells about his wife and how she died. Later, he advises Ila to plan for another baby, saying that a baby will help improve married life. Now, Ila, following Saajan's advice, gets ready today for her husband and is indirectly suggesting planning for a baby. But Rajiv gets angry upon hearing this, and he says, "Why do you send potato curry every day? It gives me gas," and then goes off to sleep. Seeing this, Ila quietly feels sad. The next day, we see Saajan going to the office by bus, but there is a lot of traffic. He gets off the bus and decides to go by auto. While talking, the rickshaw driver tells him that there has been traffic since morning because a woman in the building opposite jumped with her child and died. Hearing this, Saajan is shocked. Then he comes back, and when it's time for the lunchbox, he goes to the canteen to eat and starts reading Ila's letter. At that moment, Sheikh arrives and asks, "Sir, when should we start the training?" But today, Saajan again tells him to come later. This makes Sheikh angry, and he says, "I am an orphan. I have learned to do everything by myself till now. I will also learn the office work. I don't need you." Hearing this, Saajan's heart changes, and now he tells Sheikh to go and start working. Then Saajan reads Ila's letter, in which Ila talks about the incident that happened today, that a woman had jumped off the building with her child. She further writes that a few years ago, her brother had also committed suicide because he failed in an exam. She says she cannot understand what that woman must have been thinking, and how much courage it must take to jump off a building. In fact, while writing this, Ila is imagining herself in the place of that woman. In response, Saajan writes to her, telling Ila not to think like that. Then he shares a train incident, writing that one day, on a train, a woman was touching his private part. He felt very angry but couldn't say anything because it was very crowded. This continued for quite some time. When he looked down, he realized that it was actually a man standing behind him whose file was touching his private part. Seeing this, he started laughing and looked back at the woman. He concludes that sometimes what we think isn't actually how things really are. Reading this, Ila also starts laughing. Then we see that after office hours, Sheikh tries to increase his conversation with Saajan and starts going with him by the train. On the way, he is chopping vegetables in the train. Seeing this, Saajan asks him where he learned to chop vegetables. He explains that he used to work in a hotel and learned all this there. Then, showing a photo of his wife, Nisha, he says that after cooking, every evening they both go out for a walk. "Sir, what do you do in the evening?" he asks. He replies, "I just watch TV." Then Sheikh invites him over for a meal at his home, but Saajan promises that he will come next time. The next day, Saajan reads Ila's letter. Ila writes that last night her husband came home late and left for the office in the morning. Her daughter had already fallen asleep, and she was going through her old belongings. There, she found a recipe for tindi, ridge gourd, in her grandmother's handwritten diary. and thought that he might like it. At that moment, Shek arrives, bringing 2 bananas for lunch. Saajan offers him his tiffin. After eating the tindi, rich gourd curry, he praises it a lot and says, "Make 1 tiffin for me as well, sir." Saajan replies that the place from where he used to get tiffins has closed down. Then Saajan sends a letter to Ila, in which he writes that he also went through some old belongings last night. Among them, he found a recorded cassette of a TV show that his wife used to watch. He says that she was probably very young at that time. While his wife used to watch that show, he would smoke on the balcony while repairing his bicycle, and through the window, he could see his wife laughing at the same joke every day. But now, after so many years, while watching that show again, he realizes that this is the kind of laughter he truly wants. Both of them start reminiscing and reflecting on their old memory. The next day, Shek also sits down to have lunch with Saajan. Shek finds a letter in the tiffin, but Saajan immediately takes the letter and puts it in his pocket. Shek says, "Sir, in today's age of emails, who even sends letters?" But Saajan quietly starts eating his meal. After lunch while working, Saajan quietly reads Ila's letter. In it, she writes that her mother also used to watch that show, and she liked it too. "Today, I want to tell you something. Every cigarette steals 5 minutes of your life. My father has lung cancer. When the pain gets worse, he says that he should have smoked thousands more cigarettes, then he wouldn't have to see these days." At night, we see that Ila's words about cigarettes trouble Saajan a lot, so he doesn't smoke. But by not smoking, he feels strange and restless. Yet still, he resists and doesn't smoke. The next day, we see Ila washing clothes in the bathroom. While doing so, she smells her husband's shirt and notices a strange scent on it. She begins to suspect that her husband is having an affair. She becomes disheartened. She then goes to her parents' house, where we see her father bedridden due to cancer. She helps her mother with some money. Later, when she returns home, she reads the letter written by Saajan. He says that once he and Shek were walking along the road when they saw an artist painting. That man was making different paintings using the same frame, but in each painting, the people were different, and in one of them, I was there. So I bought it. Later that night, while returning home in a rickshaw, I noticed that the place where I used to play and the school I went to were no longer there. But the hospital and the post office where I was born and where my parents and my wife had died were still there. I feel that we forget many things simply because there is no one left to remind us. Then Ila writes a letter to Saajan, telling him that her husband is having an affair. She says she tried to talk to him but couldn't, and that she cannot just break off the relationship and leave either. She adds that there is one place she wants to go, Bhutan. Yashasvi learned in school that the people there are always happy. Hearing this, Saajan thinks to himself and then writes back in the letter, "What if I come with you to Bhutan?" When Ila reads Saajan's letter, she smiles and replies in her own letter, "I don't even know your name. How can I go with you?" Then we see that Ila slowly begins to fall for Saajan. She tells her auntie to play romantic movie songs, and she herself starts listening to them, thinking of Saajan. In her letter to him, she writes that she had written something but erased it, and that she wants to tell him that erased part when they meet in person. She adds, "I think now we should meet. There is a cafe called Cooler Cafe. We can meet there at 1 o'clock. Saajan reads this and feels happy, but we also notice a trace of worry on his face. Just then, his boss calls him in angrily, saying that Shek has made all the calculations wrong. The file comes back from the client and Saajan's boss wants to fire Shek. But Saajan says, "It's my mistake, sir. I'll fix it." The boss replies, "You've worked here for 35 years without a single mistake and now you're defending Shek?" Saajan answers, "No, sir. I'm not defending him." Then the boss says, "Saajan, why do these files smell of vegetables?" Saajan replies, "I don't know anything about that, sir," and walks out of the cabin. Outside, Saajan gets angry at Shek because he didn't do his work, but Shek apologizes and invites him home for dinner. Saajan calms down and agrees to go to his house for a meal. There, Saajan meets Shek's wife, Mirunisa. She serves food for everyone and asks Saajan about his own wife. Saajan replies, "I don't have a wife, but I do have a girlfriend. Her name is Ila." Hearing this, Mirunisa looks at him in shock, while a long smile appears on Saajan's face. After dinner, Shek tells Saajan that he and Mirunisa are not yet married. They had run away and come here because her father was not willing to accept their marriage. He thought that since Shek was an orphan, dark-skinned, and short in height, he would not be able to take care of his daughter. But now, her father has finally agreed to their marriage. But the problem is that from her side, the whole family is going to come for the wedding, while from my side, there will be no one. I want you and Ila Madam to come to my wedding. So Saajan agrees to attend his wedding. The next day, Ila sits in the cafe waiting for Saajan, but he doesn't come. She gets very angry and leaves. That night she cannot sleep. She is restless and furious. The next morning she sends Saajan an empty tiffin. When Saajan sees the empty tiffin, he understands that Ila is angry with him. So he writes her a letter saying, "I did come to the cafe yesterday, but I couldn't bring myself to come to you. I was only watching you from a distance. You kept drinking water again and again, and I could sense a hesitation in your heart. I wanted to come and tell you that you are very beautiful, but then I saw how young you are, and I realized you must still have so many dreams. And perhaps in those dreams, I may appear sometimes, only to say thank you." Then we see in the past that Saajan had been sitting in the cafe, watching Ila from a distance until she left. The next day, we see Saajan attending Shek's wedding. Shek is overjoyed to see him there. After the wedding, as Saajan leaves, he tells Shek, "You will make a good husband. If you ever get the chance, come to Nasik, because that's where I'll be living." Then he departs. Later, we see that Ila's father passes away. One day, Ila thinks about going to meet Saajan and tells the Dabawalas, "For many days now, my tiffin has been going to the wrong place. Please give me that address." The Dabawala gives her the address of Saajan's office. Then we see Ila going to Saajan's office, but she doesn't find him there. Instead, Shek is working in his place. Ila asks him where Saajan Fernandez is. Shek tells her, "Saajan sir has left the job and moved to Nasik." Hearing this, Ila feels disappointed. Then, Shek walks her to a taxi, and Ila goes back home. On the other side, we see Saajan traveling by train to Nasik. But during the journey, he keeps thinking about Ila. In the end, instead of going to Nasik, he returns back to his home. He looks in front of his house and sees that the girl and some children are playing outside again. Smiling, Saajan returns the girl's ball and goes back inside his house. That night, Saajan smokes a cigarette as usual, watching the family in the building opposite. The girl opens the window and smiles at him. Seeing her, Saajan starts smiling. Meanwhile, Ila starts remembering Saajan. Feeling sad, she thinks about him and then writes her final letter to Saajan. "You must have reached Nasik by now. And after morning tea, gone out for your walk. I have sold all my jewelry here, and I am going to Bhutan with Yashasvi. I want to send you a letter, but I'm thinking of keeping it with me and reading this letter after many years. I once read that sometimes even the wrong train reaches the right destination." We see that Ila does not send the last letter to Saajan. Then, on the final day, we see Saajan meeting the Dabawalas and trying to find out Ila's address from them. And with this, the story ends. The Lunchbox, a story that teaches us that even strangers can touch our hearts in unexpected ways. Life's little moments are what truly matter. If you love this explanation, like, share, and subscribe to Cine Explain Hub for more full movie breakdowns. See you in the next one.